Jesse, welcome to Ask an Expert podcast. Thanks for coming on.
Fired up to be with you, my friend.
Okay, so we got a lot to talk about today. I want to start first with adversity. You take over a Savannah baseball stadium, bringing a team there, and day one, you walk into what is, I can only explain as a vacuum. There's nothing there. Phone lines have been cut, internet's cut, there's no desks, there's no nothing, there's no equipment. Talk about that moment and how you guys overcame that.
Well, I think I've had to deal with adversity since I joined, what many people say is the baseball industry, but,
Okay.
we always say, what business are you in? What business are you really? And we're in the entertainment industry.
Sure.
And when I was 23 years old, I became a GM of a team and the worst team in the entire country. That's the only way you get the GM job if it's a terrible,
23,
23 years old. So I took that job and there was only $268 in the bank account that first day. We had 3 full-time employees and payroll was on Friday. The team only had 200 fans coming to the game. So I couldn't pay myself the first 3 months of my first job. So I dealt with that. And then obviously my wife and I took on the huge challenge of Savannah, Georgia, where professional baseball had been there for 90 years. And this is like, Hank Aaron played here, Babe Ruth, Ted Williams, the best players at this majestic stadium. And that first day when we showed up and, again, the phone lines were cut, the internet lines were cut. It was myself, my wife, our 24-year-old president, 3 22-year-olds. It was a tough challenge, and it only got worse. We only sold 2 tickets in our first 3 months, 2 total in our first 3 months. So in January 2016, we overdrafted our account and we were out of money. And my wife and I, she turned to me and said, "Jesse, we have to sell our house." So we sold our house, emptied our savings account, and we're sleeping on an airbed. And it's crazy to think that was only just a little over 4 years ago. So we dealt with it. And I think I wouldn't trade anything because we realized that we had to be dramatically different and make a dramatic different impact. And so we couldn't be like everyone else.
Right.
And so that adversity taught us how to deal with the challenge and say, all right, what are we going to do? So what? Now what? And how can we be unforgettable? And I think that's what we changed our whole mindset in our marketing and everything.
Where does that come from? I mean, that's obviously a resiliency that I feel like you have ingrained in you, but was there a moment early, in your life where, there was this switch where it's like, okay, no matter what, we're going to rise to the challenge?
Yeah, it's a tough question. I think there's a pride. There's no other way to do it. You have to find a way. I was an only child, and I was always just trying to make my dad proud. I was that kid that wanted to get the good grades, wanted to hit the home run, and make my dad proud. And so I think even to this day, I still have that. And Enneagrams are very big these days, and understanding yourself. And I'm driven by success, and so I take it personal. If we're failing and not doing it, I take it tremendously personal. And that's been kind of an expectation my whole life. And I think it's obviously from the upbringing and what drives you, what motivates you. And I think a lot of people sometimes don't even know their inner motivation. And, I want to make a difference and make an impact. So for me, the failure was not an option. Okay. And again, I think very important too. So many people think of failure as like, they talk about it over and over. To us, failure is discovery. What do we discover today? What do we learn today? I never think about what my failure, I figure out what's my next at bat. What's coming up next. And so it's just a different mindset that many people on the outside would say we fail every day. We do a different promotions on the field every single night. We try different things with our streaming, different things with our players. And a lot of things like, literally the other day we had a horse race and the kids they couldn't see out of the horse heads and they ended up way on the outfield and the game was delayed for like 3 minutes. The fans were wondering what was going on. To many people, that's a failure, but I was like, no, it's kind of funny and we're going to make it better next time. So what's that next at bat? And that's that mindset that I think I've been able to develop through all the challenges and all the testing of new things.
Sure. Okay, so speaking of testing of new things, you come to Savannah, Georgia, and you guys do a contest for a new name. Talk about that process. How did that come about? And talk about the selection of what is now known as the Savannah Bananas.
When you have a vision, when you have direction, it makes it very clear on how you make your decisions. So for instance, the name of our company is Fans First Entertainment. The mission is fans first, entertain always. Every decision we make is it fans first. Right. So it's very simple. When we came in here, we said, all right, what are the things that frustrate you about baseball? What are the things that frustrate you about a baseball experience? And how do we make it fans first? Baseball is long, slow, and boring. Can't do that. All right, let's make it nonstop exciting. You get nickel and dimed. How do you make every single ticket all-inclusive? All your burgers, your hot dogs, your chicken sandwiches, your soda, your water, your popcorn, everything that we did for back then, $15. And so, that was a mindset. So obviously, to let the fans choose the name of the team, to let the fans choose the name of our mascot, split. But to how we named our team, we said, all right, we want something completely different, completely unique, something that's a little crazy. And what do we get? 999 completely normal generic names, except for one, and that was the Savannah Bananas. And we got it together as a team and said, all right, this could be big. We're going to get criticized. We're going to get, people are going to think we're crazy, but there's opportunities. And from a marketing stance, obviously with our audience here, a name is so important because also what you can do with it. Sometimes people just choose the name. There's so many opportunities. So we said, could we have a senior citizen dance team called the Bananas? Could we have a male cheerleading team called the Bananas, which is now referred to just as the Dad Bod Cheerleading Squad? Could we have our mascot Split? Could we have, Go Bananas as our tagline? Could we do a music video with our players to Can't Stop the Peeling, the song by Justin Timberlake, but change it? There were so many puns and so many opportunities. Yeah. And, if you go on our website, we're very clear. We make baseball fun. The Bananas to us is fun. Now, unfortunately, when we came out on February 25th, 2016, not everyone locally thought it was fun. That's when we got messages, the owner should be thrown out of town. You guys are an embarrassment to the city. You'll never sell a ticket. Please leave our town now. Locally, we're criticized, but, it's funny. It was, if you're not getting criticized, you're not doing anything. And
so where did the tides change? Because I watched the documentary and I saw that moment, right, where it was like there's this vitriol in the local community. But obviously, to your point, I love it because it stand out and you guys got national attention, overnight. Where did the tides change? Because if I'm not mistaken, you guys sold out the first game.
Yeah, and we've sold out every game since. So we sold out for 3 straight seasons. Well, again, you started creating buzz. You started creating excitement. And so what happened is some people, went on the other side. They started wearing the merchandise. You started seeing a little bit here. And then all of a sudden we got a bunch of groups together and we announced our first game sold out. And people were like, whoa, this is catching on. And they're like, we got to see this. And then they came out to the first game and watched our players do a Britney Spears dance in front of everyone. They watched our breakdancing first base coach. They saw our banana pep band and they were like, this is not like a typical baseball experience.
Sure.
We failed the first 6 months because we marketed like everyone else. Because we literally said, all right, let's do social media, let's do newspaper, let's do radio, we failed.
Right.
Now, after that first season, we spend $0 on marketing because the best form of marketing, as everyone knows, is word of mouth. But the only way you create word of mouth is if you create an experience that's worth talking about. Seth Godin says it best, remarkable. What's the definition of remarkable? Are you willing to remark about something? Right. And so, that's what we started creating. And so we created this experience with all these things that people would leave a ballpark and say, you wouldn't believe what happened at the stadium. And now that carried and, created a huge wait list of thousands of tickets. And, for a low level summer ball baseball team, it's pretty remarkable. And we're very fortunate.
So what I love about it is customer experience is something that has been talked about a lot in business, the past few years. What I love about you guys is your product was defined by improving the customer experience and not the other way around. And I feel like a lot of traditional businesses look at their product or their service, and that is the customer experience. So what do you say to businesses out there to kind of get out of the, the traditional makeup and just start looking at things differently to improve that customer experience?
Well, I think every business I ask this question, what makes you different?
Okay.
And so few people can answer that question.
Right.
They'll say things like, we're a little better pricing. We have better products. You say, we're faster, we're quicker, we're like this. All right. Is not different.
Right.
Only is different. So we ask, what makes you the only? What are you the only one in your industry? When you're the only one doing something, then people start talking about it. And so how do you become the only? You look at all the friction points that your customers go through. You challenge the rules of your industry, the way things have always been done. Right now, right before the pandemic, we announced we created the first ever ad-free stadium. People are like, what are you guys doing? And in sports, as you know, there's ads everywhere. Major League Baseball, as it's launching, we're putting ads on the mound, we're putting ads on jerseys. People are gonna start getting tattoos of ads on their faces. It's crazy.
Right.
And we said, no, we're not gonna do that because no one comes to a stadium to be advertised to, no one comes to be sold, and no one comes to be marketed to. That's not a good experience. We challenge the rules. The reality is most people, when they come to a ballpark, they spend money on nickel and dime. You get the bar burgers, they get the dogs. When you come to a baseball game, you sit and you watch a baseball game. The players play. You challenge the rules. No, our players actually go on dates with fans during games. They deliver roses to little girls. They go on conga lines. In boxing, they have the ring girls where it's like, they hold the ring. We have ring dudes. So our players rip off their jerseys, pour water on their head, and are holding the ninth inning for the ninth ring dude. You challenge the rules of what's expected, and that delivers an experience that we believe can wow people and get them talking. So I think everything starts by putting yourself in your customer's shoes. And often it's like, all right, well, we think our customers want this. Well, have you ever gone undercover and actually been a customer to your product? And so we do this, every night. Someone on our staff goes undercover, parks with the fans, walks in with the fans, sits with the fans, eats with the fans, and does a full report at the end of the night to our whole team and said, this is what I love, this is what I didn't like, this is what I heard, this is what I can do better.
Right.
That's how you can get in the mindset. It's not just thinking about it. Be there. Be your own fan.
Sure. Well, I love that validation aspect, because I think that that's something that a lot of companies don't do. Yeah. They use validation as sales, right? Sales are going up, so the product must be good, but we don't know. That's complacency, right? We don't know how much better it could be. So I love that you guys are challenging this. And I hesitate to use the word status quo, especially for your guys' business, because I think what you're doing is not the status quo, but I love how you challenge that nightly. What kind of impact did this have on the players and the staff as far as moving in this direction of being so I'm going to say fun and different. So I assume it was positive, but I think about this from a business standpoint, in a traditional business atmosphere. If somebody's doing this, I have to imagine it has a tremendous impact on, employee morale.
Yeah, and it took a while. At first we're still figuring out. I mean, the reality is, been in this industry for 15 years. And I remember the first day before the first practice with our original team in Gastonia. And I go, guys, before we practice, we're going to learn how to dance. And they were like, what? And I brought a dance instructor, choreographer, to teach them. And the guys were shaking their heads. And I had a few pitchers say, I'm not doing this, and went off to the bullpen. One guy was defiant. He was like, I'm not doing this. And so they learned how to dance, and I'll tell you, they were pretty good ball players, but terrible dancers. And these are like top college guys in the country. I mean, Russell Wilson was on our team. The quarterback for the Seahawks was on our team. And so they're learning how to dance. And the first night, we bring them on the field. They do the jump on it dance. And all of a sudden, the fans start cheering like crazy. The second night, they're cheering more. They start getting autographs. The third night, I'm walking through the grandstand, and a husband and a wife are talking. And the husband's talking to his wife, and she goes, shut up, honey. They're about to dance. And I was like, all right, we're on to something now. And so all of a sudden, they started getting that feedback from the fans. Halfway through the season, the guy that said he wasn't going to dance, he went on the field, ripped off his belt, and is taking it off and going around his head, wearing on his belt. And I found out 3 years later, he became a male model in LA. He was on a billboard. So it's full circle. But the reality is, they started getting the recognition and buy-in from not only us as a staff, but the fans. And I'll tell you, we are in a recognition culture now more than ever. People need words of affirmation. They need to be told that they're doing the right thing. That it can be more valuable than money for people. And so for us, after every game, all of our players and our staff are at the gates. Every player. They don't just go in their locker room and wait till the fans go. They're at the gates, and we have free s'more stations, and we have our pep band playing, but they're signing autographs and talking to fans. And what happens there is they are getting that feedback. Thank you so much. You have no idea what you guys are doing for this community. We love it. They realize they're not complimenting their doubles or how many strikeouts they had. They're complimenting the things they do for the fans. So as a company, what are you doing to make sure that your staff, your team can get that recognition from their customers? And then it makes you want to deliver that more.
Right. So I'm curious what these past few months have been like for you guys. I know in the upper echelon sports worlds, we're following it closely because, I'm a sports fan, and I think a lot of us, even if we're not sports fans, are clamoring to get back to some normalcy. What has it been like for you guys? What's happening right now? What's the future look like?
I think when we announced in April, had a press conference with our mayor and all the media and said, we are going to play this season and we're going to play in front of fans. Everyone was like, sure you are. Good luck with that. Like, no chance. But we said July 1, we're going to push the schedule. We're going to start July 1. We're going to play in front of fans.
Okay.
And on July 1, we played in front of fans. Now, did we have to cut capacity? Yes, we cut capacity. Right. Did we have to have masks and check temperatures and all these new protocols? You better believe it. But we found a way. When you add a constraint, it forces you to be creative to find a way to make it happen. And the best constraints are often deadlines. And so we put that deadline as July 1 and said, we're going to do it. Now, it was unbelievably tough. We had to turn away 50,000 fans that already bought tickets. So imagine that, 50, because every game sold out. We're very fortunate. We had to turn away these people that bought tickets. And we said, we're going to do this. And then, the mask policy came and people were like, I don't want to wear a mask. And there was all these challenges. But we kept saying, all right, what can we use this summer to experiment in different way? What can we do? What can we speed up as far as our innovation this summer? And so we sped up. We've created our first ever Bananas Netflix. I mean, basically what we have is Bananas Insider through Facebook, $5 a month. all original documentaries. We show every game and show them a different way. Challenge the way things are done, the status quo. How people watch a baseball game, and it's about to happen now with no fans, Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
Boring. It is so boring. You sit and watch it. So we said, how do we make it not boring? And these are the questions. So I asked, all right, well, what if we had drones covering the games, which never happened before? What if we mic'd up players during the games? What if we had fans choose who's going to pitch during the game, or who's going to steal or bunt, or what's going to happen? We asked all those questions to put yourself in the fan perspective. And we said, all right, could we put ourselves out of business? Could we create a streaming experience that's even better than the live in-person event? And sometimes the best businesses that reinvent and challenge status quo, they find ways to put themselves out of business before something like COVID or something else does put you out of business.
Right.
So that's what we started doing. Now, are we taking a hit this year? You better believe when you turn away 50,000 fans, it hurts. But what's happened is our merchandise has skyrocketed. It's not even close to last year. Now, again, we do free shipping always. You don't pay $99 Prime because that's not the way the fans do it. If a t-shirt's $18, a t-shirt's $18. Don't charge shipping. So anyways, we've done a lot of things like that, and we've used this as a way to reinvent and innovate. And we've learned so much by doing that and not settling for, hey, this is how it's going to be. We can't play. Let's just hope for next year.
Sure.
Let's get out of this. And that's what we tried to do.
So I'm curious the feedback you've been getting as you've shifted to doing kind of a virtual fan experience. I know for me personally, there was the big golf match that had Tom Brady and Phil Mickelson. I love the mic'd up approach because I thought that just it humanized these people that we idolize, and I think that it's important to remember even those idols that we have, they're still human. So what kind of feedback are you getting as you guys are starting to do more of this virtual?
Yeah, well, I mean, we started in the quarantine when we were in our shelter in place. We said, everyone on our team, we said, I believe everyone's in the entertainment business, no matter what you do. Entertain, how do you provide attention? How do you provide amusement? How do you entertain people? We're all in that. So we said, all right, guys, you're no longer ticket people. You're no longer food and beverage people. You're no longer merchandise. We are all entertainers. What can we do during this period to entertain our fans more? And how can we break down the barriers? So for instance, we started doing cooking with the bananas, and our whole front office staff would go into each other's homes and cook. And I'll tell you, our staff, I love them to death, but they're not the best cooks, all right? But we were all cooking. We had our announcers start doing music trivia every Thursday night. We started doing music videos with our fans. So we'd have our fans submit videos, and then we put together a whole published music video.
Right.
So we started thinking about this. How do you break down the barriers? So that's the number one thing. You mentioned it before. Professional athletes and so many staffs, they're just off limits. They just do their thing, but people want to get to know them on a human level. And human connection, as we know more than ever, is everything.
Yeah.
So how do you break down that? So we said, all right, we want our fans to know our staff. We want our fans to know our players. So now the feedback we're getting, it's like, whoa, we're literally in the dugout, talking to players, getting their feedback. Last night we had our pitcher mic'd up during the game, and he was telling the fans what pitch he was going to throw before he threw it.
Which is awesome.
It's so crazy. And it gets that level. It's like, wow, I'm in on this. Everyone wants to be in the dugout. So why don't you let people actually be on the field with the players? And that's been huge of us. We're even doing a behind the mask weekly series with our catcher, who's an unbelievable character. And we filmed his whole off day, like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, literally waking up at the pool with his buddies, jumping off docks. And you got to see, this isn't just a catcher. This is a guy that we all can connect with a little bit. And I think that's going to be the future of media and companies, is how do you break down those barriers and get people even closer? And that's how you build real fandom.
So I've heard you say you're in the entertainment business, not the baseball business, right? So what's your recommendation to businesses out there that, again, I don't know if it's just, it feels easy or if it is easier, but if baseball's fun, especially if you like baseball's fun inherently, right? It's sports. It's something people can relate to. Yeah. But in a more brick and mortar business, what's your methodology? What's the recommendation to say, hey, yes, you may sell paper, but you're in some sort of experience business. So start focusing on that and start focusing on how to improve it.
Yeah. Well, how do you make people feel? And, that's a question that I think is guided by entertaining. The reality is, when you send an invoice, what does it say? When you reply to an email, when someone buys from your website, is it fun? Right. So, I mean, we work with a lot of different companies, but we were inspired by Derek Severs and Anything You Want with CD Baby. When someone buys a ticket from us, They get a video. It's of me. It starts, congrats. You just made the best decision of your day. Right now, as your ticket order came in, a high priority siren went off in our stadium. Our Bananiacs rushed to the ticket laboratory to produce your tickets. Then a banana nana slowly walked in and hand selected your tickets and placed them on a silk pillow that we raised up in the air. We all sang Na Savannah Nahi to celebrate the birth of a new fan. And then we walked your tickets down to our vault where they're in maximum security, ready for you to go bananas. All right. Tell me this. If you're working with a painting company, a home builder, a realtor, and you get an email like that back, are you not going to smile? Are you not going to feel good? Are you not going to feel like, hey, they actually care about me in a unique way?
For sure.
Or do you just want this regular payment confirmation? Hey, your order's been shipped.
Right.
It's such an easy touch for anybody to have more of a fun human touch. So many people, they take themselves too seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, you tell me right now, Joshua, have you ever gone home and said, hey, you wouldn't believe, I met the most professional person today. Oh, they were so professional. What a professional company.
Right.
Everyone says professional, 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 but we don't really get excited about professional.
Yeah.
We want fun. We want different. We want unique. We want that human connection. And so I believe every company, no matter what you do, build that. Show us a little bit of yourself. Our staff and our email signatures, we have videos of them, the things they love, the things they don't like, the things, what they can connect. It's like, oh man, I'm a huge UGA fan as well. Like, that's what we want to talk about. It's not just about your order you did for today.
Sure.
And so I think every company, no matter what, can jump into that realm.
How do you guys have a line? I was thinking about this interview. Is there a line, or is there just no line?
Oh geez, we've probably crossed it. So yeah.
No, there is a line.
Oh yeah, this is our Dolce and Banana underwear. This is the small banana.
Okay.
It doesn't sell nearly as much as the big banana. So we sell underwear. Our players do rip off their jerseys during the games. The other night we may have crossed it from a Bush League standpoint. We did Impractical Bananas. So if you ever heard of Impractical Jokers,
oh yeah,
we had 3 guys in the bullpen telling one of our players what to do. So I'm watching the game, and all of a sudden a big left-handed hitter comes on the opposing team. And I look out in the right field, and our right fielder is laying down, acting like he's sleeping. And I'm like, this is in the middle of the game. It's a left-handed hitter. I'm like, what is happening? And then all of a sudden the hitter finishes, and I see him sprint to the right field wall, take his glove off, take his hat off, and it looks like he's peeing on the outfield wall. I'm like, this isn't a major league. This isn't a regular game. Yeah. And he did some more things that may have been potentially crossing the line. But so we're not doing Impractical Bananas anymore, because there were a bunch of professional scouts at that game. Let's put it that way. But if you go in all of our bathrooms, in the men's bathrooms, the urinal cakes are making bacon urinal cakes. They're our rival to make it bacon. So our fans are literally pissing on our rival all night. Okay. So we get very close, but I think everyone knows that it's all in fun.
Sure.
If you don't get to the line or test the line, one of my great mentors, Bill Beck, the former baseball owner, he said, I don't break the rules. I just merely test their elasticity.
Okay.
And I love that.
Yeah.
How are you being a troublemaker in your industry? How are you testing the rules? I mean, we came up with a brand new game that completely changed the rules that we played in front of fans just a month ago. And it's like, people were like, oh, you're breaking tradition. Yeah, tradition needs to be break. Major League attendance is down for 7 straight years, and it's going to keep declining. All right. You need to break it. So I think you need to go to that point where you get really close to the line and sometimes cross it. Because like I said before, if you're not getting criticized, you're not doing anything.
Okay. So you guys have, not you guys, you have written a book. I'm interested in this. I think it's one of the things that, in the business community, we hear about these things, hey, you should try doing this. You should try a podcast, and we're going to get there as well. But talk about the process of where the idea came from and what it was to actually go through the writing process.
The long story, making it as short as possible. In 2016, I set the goal to have a thank you experiment. So basically I chose the one word care. And if you heard of the book, John Gordon, one word, pick a word for the year instead of New Year's resolutions. 87% of New Year's resolutions fail. Pick a word you can't really fail. Yeah. So I picked a word, and it was care. And I was like, I want to hold myself accountable. So I said, I'm going to start doing thank you letters. And every day I'm going to write a thank you letter to someone in my life that's made an impact. And from old coaches to high school teachers to authors to colleagues. And one of the letters I wrote was to Mike Michalowicz. And Mike Michalowicz is a big-time author, speaker. He wrote the book Profit First. He wrote Pumpkin Plan, numerous books. And his book single-handedly helped me and Emily, my wife, get through the tough time when we were living on an airbed. and there was a whole chapter on you need to enjoy saving more than spending. And we had like iPhone chargers that were falling apart, but we can't buy one. We just kept saying one more day, one more day. We went to Walmart to shop for a week and only spent $30. And that's not even real food. I mean, it was bad.
Yeah.
And that chapter and that book helped us get through that. So I wrote Mike a heartfelt thank you note when the impact his book made on us and how it got us through the tough time. He immediately called me and said, Jesse, wow, thank you so much. Can you go on my show? Can I interview you? I said, yeah. So I went on a show. The next day he's like, hey, can you keynote our ProfitCon big event in New Jersey? I was like, yeah, I mean, yeah, sure, let's do it. And so I went there and they asked, well, what's the name of your speech? I go, I don't know. You just want me to tell the story. They go, what do you mean, what's the name of my speech? And he goes, well, you talk about how you stand out and you find different things and you're being unique. And it kind of was like, I don't know, find your yellow tux. He's like, perfect, we'll do it. And so I gave this talk and it was all in front of accountants. Like picture like, every type of financial person. This is a baseball guy, a crazy entertainment guy in a yellow tux in front of accountants, a couple hundred accountants. And I gave the talk and never forget, it was my first big stage talk. And it was a huge standing ovation. And afterwards, Mike and everyone else said, you need to write that in a book. And so I teamed up with some great people and we put it out. And that's how it happened. And so now it's like, what's the next book? And I'm very excited for that next challenge. But that's how it happened. And it's made a bigger impact than I ever imagined.
So what is the next book?
And I've already started. So there's a few working titles right now, but I'll it's basically on how can you change the game in your industry? How can you become unforgettable? And I think everyone needs to become that mindset. It's not just how do you stay irrelevant, how do you become unforgettable, and how do you change the game? And so we've been mapping that and really doing it ourselves. We're just sharing our journey of how we're doing it, and other businesses have done the same. And obviously my biggest inspiration has been Walt Disney and P.T. Barnum. And I'll tell you, they changed the game in numerous ways, and they are still to this day unforgettable. And so when you look at that, I think it's a good guidance for any company on how to develop our whole plan to, be sustainable and really thrive, and not just try to think how are we going to make it through this quarter or this year, which obviously a lot of companies have to do right now.
Right. So let's talk about the podcast. You've got over 300 episodes, which kudos to you. That's quite a lot. What got you into it? Who do you have on there, and what's the process that you have?
Yeah, the podcast was for me to learn. I'm constantly trying to improve, myself. I believe, we have the 3 loves with our team. Love your customers more than you love your product. Love your employees, your team more than you love your customers, but love yourself above all. And I was struggling with that. You got to put yourself in a great spot if you want to love other people and you want to take care of other people. So for me, I had great rituals, thank you letters, writing, reading, but I realized that I wasn't around the best people. I wasn't around, and I don't say the best people, I wasn't around people that challenged me. Remember our team, 24-year-old, 3 22-year-olds, everyone in their young 20s, and great people, and I love them to death.
Sure.
But they hadn't had the life experience or the business experience for me to really jump. So I told Emily, my wife, I said, I need to get around better people. And she's like, well, how are you going to do it? So I started writing the thank you letters. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to have a podcast, and I'm going to reach out to people I'm inspired by, that I can learn from, and just build connection there. And so I did it for myself, and it just happened to, be good for a lot of listeners. And so I started reaching out to all the people I looked up to, every author, every speaker. And I've interviewed more people than I ever imagined I'd be close with. And now we're on a very, very close relationship with a lot of these guys. I've gone on their shows, they've gone on mine, and we call whenever we need help. So I think again, sometimes you got to be your own fan and just do something for yourself that you love, that you're interested in. You know what? Some other people might love it as well. And that was my interest. I didn't have this ulterior, like, let's try to get millions of people to listen to it. Yeah. Let's do something that'll help me be a better leader, a better husband, a better person, and hopefully it makes an impact.
Well, I like the journey behind that, because I think that especially with what we're going through right now, mental health is important, and it does start, right? It's the kind of thing that you can't help somebody else until you've helped yourself. What recommendations do you have out there for people that are struggling? Maybe a podcast is a bit extreme for some of them to go out there, but what recommendations to just focus on yourself and take little steps to getting yourself in a better place?
Number one, your input affects your output, especially right now. As we saw the mental health decline during COVID, I would say it was very much because of the amount of people watching the news and seeing negative headline after negative.
Get away from the media.
So don't watch the news. Try to stay away from the news. And win the morning. Win the morning, win the day. Great lesson from Hal Elrod. I was the guy that would wake up, go on social media, see other people's priorities, go to email, My day is so intentional, even with a little 2-year-old and getting home at 2 o'clock from these games that we're having right now. It's wake up, I read, I write in my journal. I write 10 ideas every single day. I write a thank you letter. I go for a run while listening to a podcast. That's like getting my vegetables in.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden by 8 o'clock, I'm ready to start the day. And so I've already won the day. And then at night, you got to start with gratitude with your thank you and then finish with gratitude. And I learned this from Neil Pastrika, happiness equation. My wife and I, every night before we go to bed, we do rose, rose, bud. And a rose is something great from the day, and a bud is something we're looking forward to. I heard the other day that the secret to happiness is always having something to look forward to. And I think obviously during COVID and all the uncertainty, it was tough to have things to look forward to. And so for us, we finish our day with the great things that happen and the things to look forward to. And I think so often people look for all those challenges, look for the negative things. We look for the good, and we start our day on purpose. So, in the morning, get a ritual that you can literally start focusing on what your input is. I mean, if I'm reading and listening to a podcast and writing, it's all positive moving forward. And that's how, when I walk in that door for our people and to be a dad, I could be the best that I can be.
Okay. Great advice. Speaking of advice, you started pretty young, and not that you're old by any stretch, but if you could go back in time, is there a nugget or a piece of wisdom that you might impart on your younger self as you're starting your career?
Yeah, I think I would have gone back earlier and started connecting and learning from people that were 2 or 3 steps ahead of me. When I first took that job at 23, my mentors were books. It's funny, I didn't start enjoying reading until I was forced to try to figure out what the heck I was doing. And so I started reading every book I could, and 100 books a year, and started doing book reports. And I learned from Tony Robbins, he would read 1,500 books and just get ahead. So it's the connection with people that are steps ahead of you, as whether it's as a husband, as a father, as a business leader. It's being open to reaching out to them and asking. I think so many of us are afraid to ask. You know what the greatest people want to do? They want to help others.
Yeah.
And so I'll never forget, I was 23 years old, and actually I was 25. It was 2 years after I started, and I read Mark Cuban's book, and I shot him an email, and he wrote back within 2 hours. And I was like, what? Mark Cuban wrote back within 2 hours? And you think about this, all these people that are very successful, you think how busy they are. You know what? The reality, they've become so successful that they aren't busy. They do the things they want to do.
Yeah.
And so when I get reached out, I always make sure I connect and spend time. And people are like, wow, thank you so much. I know I'm here busy. I'm like, no, busy is not a badge of honor. You don't want to be busy all day. You want to be doing the things you love. And so reach out to people that inspire you, that you look up. Don't be afraid to ask for time, but then also don't be afraid, and make sure that you tell them how much you appreciate and show gratitude in different ways. Handwritten letters, videos to them. The gratitude, now I've written almost 2,000 thank you letters since I've started, and that's been probably one of the biggest game changers in my life.
Well, great advice. I guess I want to finish with, is there anything else you think that's important, either that you're seeing right now or you're seeing ahead, that you think might be helpful for others?
Yeah, put yourself out of business. And so that's a really, contrarian advice right now. Don't let other people do it. So find what you need to do right now to be ahead of the curve. And the way you do that is just challenge the rules of your industry. Look at the friction points. See what you can do to be ahead. And I think that's literally what we're doing. And start testing every day. Don't be afraid to experiment. I think some people are afraid. You guys are testing you start doing all these podcasts. You're doing all these things. Just start. We're so afraid. I say, stop standing still, start standing out. So just start testing, and you never know what'll happen. Some things will actually work.
Well, so I like this. I'm going to carry this a little bit further, because we had a guest on, Christo Popoff, and his recommendation when things went sideways, they split the company into 3 divisions. One was strictly on cost, right? Cash flow management. What do we need to do to ensure we have the longest runway possible? Second one was, let's maintain. We have to still operate the business. And the third one, he called it the Kamikaze Team. And basically, these teams were independent of one another, and their sole purpose was to break the business, was to come up with a way to make that business obsolete, but to keep them separate, because if they commingled, there might be risk that I might talk the Kamikaze Team out of something, that was a novel and innovative idea. And I love that you guys challenge that status quo every single day. So I don't have a hat on, but if I did, hats off to you, because I think that's fantastic. It is the way to ensure perpetual growth.
Yeah, well, and it's a challenge every piece. It's a great point. We got our first negative review on Facebook the other day, and it goes, the all-you-can-eat deal isn't a great deal when the food isn't edible. And I was like, oh my God, this isn't good. And they showed me the picture, and it was a
Yeah.
picture on the review, and it looked like a piece of charcoal, and it
Yeah.
was a grilled chicken. That I went to our team and said, what happened? And they said, well, we sometimes have to, we cook it then and we recook it. I'm like, what is our process? And I said, re-challenge everything. And
Yeah.
so our food and bev team got together and they challenged the whole system, where we were wrapping, when we were cooking, what time. We have a completely new system now just because of that review. I'm so grateful for that review. It's probably the
Sure.
best review we get because it changed the system. You got to
Right.
constantly experiment and challenge yourself. So thank you. If you're not looking at how do you continually improve every area of your business, you're right. You probably will go out of business.
Right. All right. Well, this has been fantastic, Jesse. I want to thank you for coming on. I would love to have you back in the future. Maybe after you got your second book done, because it sounds like definitely something that people need to hear about. But thank you for coming on. My best to you, my best to your family, and my best to the team and all the amazing things that you guys are doing out there.
Well, thank you for providing a platform to help others, man.